Okay, I think we are live. Welcome everyone to the kickoff of the ONR Global-X Challenge. I am Captain Matt Farr, the commanding officer of ONR Global. Excited to be here. I'm joined by our technical director, Dr. Rhett Jeffries, who will be on camera momentarily. But first, I'd like to give you just a brief overview of ONR Global for those who are not familiar with our command. Got a few slides to just illustrate some of the points I want to make, but ONR Global is part of the Office of Naval Research. We are the international arm for ONR, and we're also part of the larger Naval Research Enterprise that you can see on the slide here. We sit right alongside the Naval Research Lab, Naval X, and PMR 51 as commands under ONR, commanded by the Chief of Naval Research, Rear Admiral Lawrence Selby. Our mission at ONR Global is to obtain, coordinate, and make available worldwide scientific information. And our vision is to be the partner of choice for S&T leaders around the world. We do this through 6 departments that you can see depicted on the right side of the slide. And I'm just going to run down each of those departments very briefly. First, international science. These are our science directors stationed around the world that seek out the leading science and technology experts in academia, and they also seek to award international grants to further that research and to build partnerships around the world. Our International Engagement Office is the staff that helps Admiral Selby in his relationships and partnerships with his counterparts around the world in the navies and the ministries of defense around the world that allow us to work together, sign agreements on technologies that we want to work on together, and to, again, build those partnerships around the world. The Science Advisor Program is experts that we have embedded around the Navy operational commands, Navy and Marine Corps operational commands, the fleets, and the Marine Expeditionary Forces around the world that provide a two-way comms link directly between ONR and those commands. The Experimentation and Analysis Department conducts experiments and also runs analyses that seek to inject ONR technologies into the fleet and get the technologies in the hands of the warfighters, usually during large fleet exercises. The Foreign Comparative Test Office looks at foreign developed technologies that are either on the shelf or already deployed, and looks to test those against US requirements, and that can lead to a foreign military sales case or bringing those programs into US programs for procurement. And finally, Tech Solutions is our rapid prototyping capability. We take input directly from the Navy and Marine Corps, and we seek to build prototypes in 12 months from the proposal time, and try to get at some of the needs that are generated directly from the fleet with that capability. So you can see there on the slide, we're really connecting about 4,000 people. We've got over 1,000 partners, and ONR Global is connected to and operating in about 58 countries around the world to accomplish this mission and achieve the vision. And so I'm going to show you one more slide. You should be looking at a map that shows the footprint of ONR Global. You can see where we're operating out of. I'm here in London, England, where our headquarters is located. And you can see we also have offices, permanent offices around the world in Prague, Tokyo, Singapore, Melbourne, Santiago, and Sao Paulo. In addition to those office locations, we have science advisors stationed around the world that you can see depicted with yellow dots. And those are, again, embedded with the operational staffs around the world with the fleet and force. So before I turn it over here, I'd just like to say we're really excited about this Global-X kickoff, the 3rd time we've done it. The first 2 Global-X Challenge iterations have generated some game-changing technologies that are very promising, and we're looking to do that again. So we're very enthusiastic here at ONR Global to be able to do this yet a 3rd time and try to get at some game-changing technologies with international teams that are brought together as part of this challenge. So to talk more about this Global-X challenge specifically, I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Rhett Jeffries, our technical director.
Thank you, Captain Farr, and good day to all around the world. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's get started and talk a little bit more about what international science is and what our science directors do. They're the link. They're the ones that are deployed around the world that are looking for the good ideas, discovering. Many of you may have met them or know them and have interacted with them. Whenever you have a good idea for research, for fundamental research, you'll send your white paper ideas to them. And they'll be able to connect those researchers around the world back to the US researchers and facilitate awarding of grants. Now I'm going to talk quickly about those different areas that the science directors, the different tools that they use to facilitate that discovery and connection of that S&T, science and technology. We have the liaison visits, which is where they go to universities or research institutions. Sometimes they go to conferences and to see what is going on around the world, to find what that interesting research might be. We also award small grants for collaborative science, like a workshop or a conference, to help facilitate those topics and discussion. That's really what we want, to discuss those new ideas and bring in researchers from around the world, different perspectives, different disciplines, to talk through what the technical challenges are and how maybe to overcome those challenges. We like to send researchers from around the world back to the US to interact with other US researchers in the Navy and elsewhere. Sometimes that can be in conjunction with going to a conference as well. And the idea is to discover that research, connect them back to the US for collaboration opportunities, and then we will fund research grants for up to 3 years, 1 to 3 years. And that's important because those longer grants, high risk is what we're looking for, things that will maybe be outside the normal process of doing fundamental research around the world. We want those game-changing ideas, those ideas that would be different, maybe different research areas that we haven't ever done. And that's really what Global-X Challenge, what we're trying to do as well. We're trying to bring together researchers with different disciplines together to be able to talk, come up with their ideas, throw out. It's almost like taking the different pieces of expertise that each has and coming up with ways to address specifically these technical challenge topics that we put out in our call for ideas. And we have 3 of them. And I'll go through that in just a minute. So that's kind of what, in general, what the science directors do every day around the world. Let's talk now about specifically an example. This is what we did last year in 2022. And it shows the different kinds of activities that those science directors did. Over 320 global tech awareness visits. That means going to that includes virtual, going virtually places as well as in person, conferences, visiting institutions. We also had sent many people back, or supported many workshops, and sent a few people back to the US, but this was coming out of COVID, so not as many as we are now doing. And we can also see the new research grants that we started from last year, the 30 that we have. So that's an example of the kind of work that we do, and it's what we like to do. And we go out to every corner of the world to find interesting, innovative, game-changing ideas, and that's what we're looking for. Now, let's talk about the Global-X Challenge 2023. You can see here we're looking at awarding up to $750,000 for a 9-month period of performance. So it's very quick. It's not a usual 3-year grant. And the idea is to do a proof of concept to show that your idea has merit. And then what we hope to do is as you are developing these ideas and do that proof of concept after 9 months, we are going to be inviting other stakeholders, other potential technology transition partners to be involved in the process so they can see the success that you're having, and that we hope will result in a separate follow-on technology development effort that with much more investment, much more funding. It could either be from a government agency, or it could even be from a commercial entity, an industry partner. This is the idea of these kinds of technologies would have usefulness, not just in the military setting, but also in a civilian commercial opportunity. So that's the reason why we are picking these topics and have opportunities to do this really quick proof of concept that would then lead to another effort with much larger investment and much more time to mature that technology. So what we have here are the 3 challenge topics. I'll just quickly highlight them. You'll see much more detail in our announcement that came out, which is on grants.gov. It is also will be posted on our Global-X Challenge website, which should be live later today, if not already. And more details, these details as far as the specific times and dates, that's also in the announcement that's on grants.gov. If you have questions, we can point you in the right direction to get there. But these 3 challenge topics, let's talk about what we're really wanting here. We're not really looking for something that's been done already. We're not looking for the current way we do business. We're looking for ways that are different approach, something we're not currently doing. And this really does require discussion, collaboration from experts from different disciplines that may not traditionally be ones that work together. For example, long-range, high-bandwidth underwater communications, the number 1 topic that we have on the page. This is something that traditionally has been done with acoustics and sensors, sometimes with lasers and light. That is understood. Much of that is understood. Much of that is being done now. That is not necessarily, we don't want to necessarily go down that same path. Not to say that these technologies would not be used in advancing or addressing this particular challenge, but we include in our announcement many different disciplines, including microbiology, oceanography, for example, quantum technologies, things that may bring to bear a new capability, a new approach, a new way of doing things that changes the paradigm for how we would do underwater communications that potentially could get to the level that we're looking for, greater than 100 kilometers distance and high bandwidth, 5 megabits per second. That's something that we cannot obviously do right now, but it's something that we want to shoot for. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's impossible. Yes, perhaps it is impossible now, but if we can get close to those or even move in that general direction, much more than we have capability now, using these different approaches, that's what we're seeking for. We want to see what is the potential art of the possible. And so that's what we're hoping that comes out of this opportunity. And you can see the other 2 topics are just as challenging. The multifunctional fabric for survival platforms. Now, traditionally, the word fabric brings certain kinds of connotations or ideas. While it might be something that could be used for a uniform or for covering, what we're talking about are active fabrics and the ability to change properties. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a fabric. It could be some kind of thin coating, or it could be a hydrogel or something else. But this is what we're trying to shoot for, is something that's different and what the traditional application might be. And finally, personal expeditionary power. Well, we're actually shooting for something that we don't have the capability for right now. But is it possible? I believe it is. And it's something that's going to happen eventually, but we want to find out what can be done from the resources that are indigenous to whatever location you are, underwater, outside the water, on land, that could be used to develop the power required to find the fuel to have the power that you need for that kind of capability. Now, before I go through all the details on times and dates, you're probably going to be thinking, all right, who can I team with? What ideas do I have? And I'm going to reach out to someone I know that might be able to help me with this. And that's great. We want you to have that kind of teaming. But what about those researchers that you don't know in subject areas or disciplines that may be helpful? One of the objectives we have for this round of the Global-X Challenge is to try to facilitate that connection with other researchers whom you may not know or have a chance to interact. And we really want you to connect with them. So part of the emphasis we have this time around is for everybody to have a chance to do a little video about themselves, no more than 3 minutes. It can be much shorter, to talk about what technical areas of expertise you have and what interests you have specifically in addressing one of these three or more than one of these challenge topics. And make sure you have your contact information on that slide. We want you to upload that link to Slack so we can all kind of see what that is and create teams. You can be on as many teams as you want to be and try out and talk about many different ideas, because it will change based on who you interact with. So it's really exciting. That's the thing we really want to have happen and try and to facilitate. Now, not only are you going to pick teams, but we in the government are going to pick teams too. We're going to be looking for those researchers and invite you to try to team together to address topics we think you'd be able to do. Again, what that really means is it's going to require some collaboration, some discussion, some sharing of ideas. We're not asking you to record what those ideas might be, just your technical disciplines, and then you can have those discussions in a group setting, a small group team setting, to have what those might be and share those ideas. Now, before I move on to the next slides and talk some of those the ways to do that, just want to highlight the time frame. So today is our kickoff. This announcement actually came out last week. We would love to have your link to your video, your technical discipline video, on Slack by the end of this month, so we can have a chance to help pick teams, and you can have a chance to also look and see who's on that, who has those different disciplines to pick your own teams. And then we would like to have you submit your white papers and as that team, and we'll ask teams that we think should be created to submit your white papers as well by the 21st of May. And the idea is that we'll have a chance to review all those white papers and give feedback on them, as well as let you know if you should actually do a proposal. Now, oftentimes what happens is we'll identify some great things that are done on those white papers, give you recommendations on maybe on either collaborating with another team, collaborating with a certain researcher, or maybe focusing on a specific area or two, or maybe whatever it might be. If you incorporate that feedback, it will help strengthen your proposal when you submit it later. Proposals are actually due the end of June, with the idea that we would make the evaluations and selections by the third week in July. And then we would hope to have awarded that grant for early September, if not by the end of July. That's what the end of August. That's our goal and objective. Now, the communication channels we have, I mentioned we have our Global-X Challenge website that's publicly available through the ONR website. And that where you can find more information, and the link is there. We also are using Slack. So we've tried this in the past. We had Slack running for the 2020 version, our first inaugural version of Global-X Challenge. And now we've created a new channel, the 2023 Global-X Challenge, and I invite you to join those channels. At the bottom there, you can see that #ST disciplines, and that is a specific channel where you can include what discipline you have that you represent as far as your technical expertise, and put your link in the appropriate discipline that's created there, or create a new one if it's not matching there, so we can have those links under those disciplines and know where to look for the certain kinds of the different technical disciplines that we like to work for, we think would be important to meet the objectives of those challenge topics. Now with that, I believe that's our last slide. Let me just make one more comment before we go to the questions and answers. You're probably wondering, who do I reach out to ask more questions, technical questions? So in our announcement that's on grants.gov, you will be able to see some technical points of contact. And there will be, there's 2 of them for each of the topics. And one is a science director and one is a science advisor. And together, they're going to help address their particular questions related to those topics. They will also be the ones who will be managing the review process, the feedback process for both white papers and proposals, and can address those questions. It's going to be a fun time. I'm certain it has been in the past. There's some really great ideas we're looking forward to seeing, all based upon you and how you engage and what you look forward to. So with that, we'll go ahead and end our discussion, our slide presentation, and go to you for questions. And I'm going to ask, let's see what we have first. Okay. First question, is the technical video mandatory before the white paper submission? Good question. So I'll say that nothing is mandatory here. You do not have to upload a video or even submit a white paper for that matter to submit a proposal for it. It's just one way that we have to give feedback and potentially help be more successful, or give feedback that would help, that maybe be helpful. Now, as far as the technical video, if you decide not to put a link up, that's perfectly fine. We just may not know what expertise you might have and where you might join in to be even maybe more successful in another team. And you can be on as many teams as you want when it comes to the white paper stage. All right, any other questions? We can, Josiah, I'm going to turn it back over to you if you have any others that want to ask questions. I don't see any others at this point.
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my. Oh, we got some more now.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. Would you like to see consortium made of mixes of academic and industrial partners? Completely up to you. It can be all academia, it can be all industry, or a mix of the two. Completely up to you. Each expert, wherever they're coming from, will have something to bring to the table for that team to be successful. Also, what should the white paper include? Another good question. So we have provided templates on the grants.gov page. And to find this information, if you go to grants.gov, you can search for Global-X Challenge and it will pop up. And it will also be on the link on our Global-X page, on the ONR Global-X page. So in there are templates for both a what we call a quad chart, which is a PowerPoint chart that highlights the overall, kind of gives a quick picture of what the overall concept that you're proposing. It also has a white paper template with what you should ask, what you should include as far as the content, why is what you're proposing new and different, what's your technical approach, for example, and what are the key milestones that you want to accomplish. For example, a rough order of magnitude of costs. You don't have to have a complete budget for a white paper. It's really just meant to kind of give us an idea of what you're trying to accomplish. There's also an Excel sheet that allows you to put in the details of your team, where you're coming from, who your other team members are, what topic area you're addressing, for example, that we can use to help track who was submitting those white papers. Is this webinar going to be shared? Absolutely. This is being recorded right now. And if you want to see this or share the link, it will be posted later on the Global-X website. And that link can be shared. To see it, all you have to do is, again, register for it. and you get to see the link, and that will allow you to watch this anytime, as many times you want, share with whoever you want. That would be great. Any industry? Yeah, here's another question. We are an Australian research company. First of all, I want to say thanks for joining us from Australia. Great to have you here. That has strong ties to the university. Are we eligible to apply? Do we need to apply as individuals or as a team? So you are certainly welcome to apply with other members that are academic or as a team, however you choose. It's mix and match, whatever seems best to address those challenge topics. Are any countries excluded? Good question. I'm going to point you to the frequently asked questions on our Global-X Challenge website. And if you don't see them today, they'll be available soon, but we can also send that document to you. And it spells out specifically a lot of answers to these questions, including who may apply. Now, if you are not on a list that the US maintains of not being able to do business with, and there's very few of them actually on there, but otherwise you're able to participate. And I'll also say that we look to have the lead institution be international. So we want the principal investigator from that lead institution to lead the team, but that can include certainly researchers from around the world, including the US. What we don't want to have is a US lead. We want that to be an international lead. So again, I think I addressed the next question. Is this open only to non-US entities? It is in fact open to US as well, as I stated. Do we look favorably at in-kind or cash contributions to the proof of concept project? So in-kind and cash contributions are certainly not necessary. However, if that is something you feel would be best in that to support that proof of concept demonstration, then by all means include it. It will not be one of the criteria we use for evaluation. We're strictly going to be focusing on the technical criteria, the value to the Navy or naval interests, and also the what is proposed as far as the cost. All those criteria are actually laid out in our broad agency announcement that goes out, the long range broad agency announcement that ONR puts out every year, that you can find on the ONR website as well, the public site, or on grants.gov. So can the funding either cover only the international PIs team with non-funded US collaborators, or can also fund US collaborators? Another good question. So what we will do is we will give the grant to the international institution that's leading and rely upon that international institution to send funding as needed to the US institution or other country institutions as they might be. So yes, that money can go to wherever it needs to go. We'll just fund it to the one grant, the primary institution, the lead institution. May we include end users as partners like the Ministry of Defense or Navy and the government? So we cannot fund the government of other governments. However, there can certainly be partnerships that are provided, collaborations, of course, that can happen. And that would be, for example, should you propose as a team that you will receive the money that we give you in this grant, but that you will be coordinating closely with Ministry of Defense or other government entity in your country or other countries, as long as they are providing their own support, that is fine. We just can't allow the funding that we give to you to go to that government entity. But collaboration, sharing information, by all means, that's very possible. That's where the in-kind can come as well. That's coming from that government entity. Yes, question about, well, is $750,000 for each topic, or is it for all? And then probably people are wondering, is that just going to be one effort funded? So all those are good questions. And let me say that is also answered, by the way, in the frequently asked questions. But I'll quickly highlight what this really means. We have 750K at this point that we are ready to award. It can be one grant or it may be multiple grants. Case in point, we did this the first time for 750K in 2020. We actually awarded 4 grants for a total of $1.1 million for the initial. And then there were follow-on funding amounts for the optional periods that were optional work that was proposed as well. So in all, it really does depend on what is being proposed. Now, keep in mind, 9 months is not much time to spend that much money. Of course, you can, depending on what you're doing to propose. So we also found that there were some really great ideas that came in the white papers that weren't really ready for a Global-X challenge 9-month period of performance, but were great ideas nonetheless that we wanted to fund for the full 3-year effort. So we can give that feedback and award in a separate mechanism, a separate grant, a different grant. So bottom line is it all depends. I know that's not a satisfactory answer, but that's really what it comes down to. It depends on what you propose. So I encourage you not to be limited in what you are in the amount of money. And we're talking about 750K for the base effort. That's the 9 months. You can also propose an optional work that would as well allow you to do more work, more funding after the 9 months. So if that's something you want to do, so it can expand beyond up to 1 million, in fact. Let's see. How many teams will be chosen per topic? We have no number in mind right now. It all depends on what proposals, what white papers we have coming in. We would love to have many white papers, strong white papers that would address each of the 3 topics. Historically, what's happened in the last 2 rounds, we didn't necessarily get strong proposals in each of the 3 topics, but we would love to have them. So put them in. Let's bring them in, and we can. Here's my experience too. To be honest, any good research idea we can get funding for. If you bring a game-changing idea that we can't fund directly with our $750,000, guaranteed there is going to be someone else who will be willing to put money in, and we can expand that scope, just like we did the first time around in 2020. So don't hold back. What sort of TRL, technology readiness level, are you looking for when we talk about a proof of concept? Another good question. So we can't really specify per se what that TRL will be or what we're looking for. For example, if I have a multidisciplinary team, I could have an expert who has a power technology, for example, that might be used in topics 1 or 2, maybe even 3. But if it's a multidisciplinary approach, we might need some expertise from quantum, from AI, from microbiology, even synthetic biology. And by adding in their pieces and their expertise, some may have a very early low TRL science or technology idea combined with something that may be a bit more mature, higher TRL. What it might be together could be a medium TRL, I would expect, because we're looking at game changing, but there is no specific, we're not specifying at this point where that is. I will say, because of the nature of what we're looking for, something that hasn't been funded in the past and is not currently in development, that is probably going to be a TRL level on the lower end. Not to say 1 or 2, but it could be 2, 3, or 4. And again, this is just for proof of concept and what is the art of the possible, and something we've never done before. And once that's done, that proof of concept, we will hope to have a follow-on effort with much more funding to really develop and mature that capability into a higher TRL capability. Okay, do you have restrictions upon the sorts of technology we might use and explore? It's like nuclear, for example. No, there is no restriction on that. And in fact, that could be a potential expertise, I would think, is an expertise we need to consider in in topic number 3. What are the intellectual property conditions for the grant? And do we need a license for that? That's a great question. So because we're doing a grant, what we expect is it has to be for public purpose, meaning that what we expect out of this is not a product, it's a report. And we want that report to be published around the world. Any kind of IP that you develop, you keep. We have government purpose rights, but that really means of the first grant we have. And typically that's not something that results in a product that we would have rights to. We are not doing a contract where IP becomes really important or some other transaction agreement. It's a grant. And so it keeps things simple in a lot of ways. For more details about what the IP rules are, there is an answer to that question on the frequently asked questions that gives some specific references in our documents, in our solicitations that help you answer that question specifically. How many members on each team? Good question. We don't have a specific number. We think it would be best if you have at least 2 different countries or 2 different universities or 2 different, I'll say, entities, research institutions, but it does not, we don't have a requirement. And so whatever you feel is needed to have a truly revolutionary idea and approach, that's what we want, whatever is needed. And that's another reason why going to $750,000 helps bring in multiple team members to do each of their parts for that 9-month effort. Can I be on 2 teams? Yes, absolutely. You can be on more than 2 teams. If you are a rock star in science and technology, you can be on as many teams as you can handle. What I'm going to say that is probably better that happen in the white paper stage, so you know which of the teams is going to have the best solution. However, if it turns out you are a rock star and you have a member of 3 different teams that put a proposal in, absolutely fine. What's going to end up happening if all 3 get awarded is we have to coordinate with you on how you spend your time. But that will be something as a follow-on effort after we award those proposals. Okay, looks like, where are we on time? Oh, we have, okay, we're getting close. I don't have any other questions now. There might be some you think about later, and most of them we think we've addressed on the frequently asked questions. There are 58 different answers there, so hopefully that will help. And again, we can get that posted onto the grants.gov site if it's not there already, as well as it's going to be on the Global-X Challenge website on our ONR Global page. So we don't have any other questions. I think this has been a great kickoff. I hope that we've given you some exciting news. I hope you're excited as Captain Farr and I are. This is really something that's going to, I think, going to change how we go forward, and we're looking forward to it. It's been that way the last 2 times. We're confident it's going to happen this time. And again, the most success we can have is based upon how much you get involved and getting your ideas put out there. So we really want you, we need you to put in your great ideas, which I know you have. It's just a matter of getting them put on and getting on a team and moving those things forward. So don't be afraid, put them out there and look forward to that. And with that, Captain Farr and I say thank you, and we will end this webinar. Look forward to seeing your posts soon on Slack. Thank you all.